have a dynamic panel today to discuss. I'll let them introduce themselves, but I want to welcome everyone who's here physically in the room, those who will be streaming, and then actually those who are in our Gather Town, our metaverse right now that are watching. Shout out to all the JFFers who are watching through there. Today we're going to talk about virtual environments, new models, and the metaverse, and the potential it has in learning and work. And we'll explore the design of equity and looking at an equity lens. I had a lot of fun preparing for this panel with my panelists. One of the things that Dr. Morris said, and she'll talk soon, is that it doesn't matter what the metaverse starts off as, it matters what it becomes. And everyone in this room, everyone sitting on this panel has an obligation to make sure that the metaverse is as equitable as possible. So first, I'm gonna ask you all, a question that people wanna know, is the metaverse hype, yes or no?
Okay, hello everyone, good morning. I am grateful to be here. I am Dr. Messina Morris, Director of Morehouse in the Metaverse. I began my career as a chemistry professor and have been in higher education for 21 plus years. And I now am in the Department of Education and work on training other pre-service teachers to be as innovative as I have been in the classroom. But Morehouse in the Metaverse has taken on a life of its own. We made virtual reality the classroom. So is the metaverse hype? Absolutely not.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sean Berry. I'm the CEO of Metro Esports and Technology Centers. Is the metaverse hype? If it was hype, we probably wouldn't even be here, right? Like, what were we talking about? Man, I think it's nothing yet, but everything. I think that can be. I come from the traditional sports world. I used to create content for ESPN and the NFL Network and other organizations that really focused on sports. And now I've made the transition to esports and trying to link educational opportunities with gaming and interest in gaming. And I think the metaverse just creates so many opportunities that hype is probably the last thing I would call it.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Sharon Liu. I'm an executive in residence at Jobs for the Future, and I actually think that the metaverse is a little bit of a hype, but I think hype is not bad because hype gets people thinking and about things that they haven't thought about before and investigating and learning. And I actually didn't know a lot about it like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I spent some time online, probably too much time online figuring it out, and now we have colleagues, and we are all actually in the metaverse right now.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. So my name's Justin Moman. I'm probably the one that's the most hyped. I'm the only one that's been working in video games in this bunch for the last 20 years. I'm at Epic Games now, and I'm also in charge of learning at ArtStation. And I have to agree with you because I was originally going to say no, it's not hype, but I do think it is both of them because the amount of people that have gotten onto the Unreal Engine or like even Googled the word metaverse or even here right now wouldn't have happened without the hype, right?
So to that, let's follow up with what is one significant thing that you think is going to change with immersive technology, augmented reality, the metaverse that will impact the way that we work and learn? We'll start with you, Justin, and come back this way.
I mean, the biggest thing is going to be able to, we're going to be able to teach visually, and anyone that has a Wi-Fi connection is going to be able to get connected in like a visual space to be able to create. And I think more or less people are visual learners these days, so that's a big one.
Good.
I think we're going to figure out, and sorry to do this, but we're actually blasting to JFF across the country through my phone there, so do you mind just actually sitting to the left of it? Oh, thanks. Sorry about that. I mean, this is an example. Like, we took a pretty big team. Like, how many people are here? Like, maybe 20 people from JFF are here, and it's been really fun to see colleagues. I joined JFF before I saw any of them during the pandemic, and so it was good to see people that I had only seen as like little icons in real life. But not everyone of the 270 people across the country can be here from our organization. And this has been a really fun way for us to engage them and allow them to participate with us, even though they're not here.
I think the one thing that it does that's significant, particularly relative to the communities that I serve, is that it overcomes the hurdle of curiosity. Mm-hmm. There's a familiarity in video games and just kind of the meta environment. And I think curiosity allows you at least to be open to learning. And so I think it bridges that gap creatively.
Good.
For me, I'm gonna speak from an education perspective. I believe that the metaverse is changing the way our students learn and will transform the landscape of education. It builds 21st century skills across all sectors and all disciplines like collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, communication. It allows students to actually have agency over what they're doing and to take ownership of the spaces that they're in. So we at Morehouse are creating creators, developing creators and allowing students to be able to create in this space. And it's given them purpose, but it's given them the ability to be able to develop places and spaces that they would like to inhabit. And so I think that over time, this will actually allow us to access people across cultures, across genres, across lifestyles, and get into the room with some people who we wouldn't otherwise be able to be in, and create these emotive type of experiences where you can walk a mile in another person's shoes and then understand where they're coming from. So I think it will bridge the gap between how we work and learn and how we create new places and spaces to make this world more sustainable and more humane, because humanity just can't wait for us to decide that this is something that we want to do to solve some of the world's most challenging problems, and it gives us an opportunity.
I appreciate that. And you're a chemist, an author, an educator, obviously. And the pandemic forced a lot of educators to turn their physical classrooms into online classrooms. But you took it a step further, and you said, I'm going to create a metaverse, Morehouse in the metaverse. Talk about why you did that, the process, and what you're seeing in disruption with your students now.
So the reason why Morehouse in the Metaverse is so important was that I had been online already. My students already had to have certain skills with working with online technology. So when we started to move towards an online situation, I knew that students were already kind of over being online, being in these 2D flat dimensional classrooms where they would be in breakout rooms. And in my class, let me tell you something. If you came to my class, you love chemistry because I'm a whole show, okay? You're gonna get a whole show. You're not gonna put your head down. Pay attention up here, everyone. Okay, so I'm an active learning practitioner, and I believe in giving them real world applications. So Morehouse in the Metaverse was just the next step. Not to mention, I'm married to a full gamer. So like I had been in this space online in these real-time 3D worlds with my family, with my husband, my 5 sons. So it's a whole situation, everyone. And I just knew that we needed something different, but we didn't want it to be where they were just learning about us streaming PowerPoints or things like that. For chemistry especially, you can't see molecules. So it gave me an opportunity to increase the visual spatial intelligence of students and allow them to understand how reactions take place, why things are happening in the world. But for other disciplines that we use it in, like history or biology, even sociology and journalism, multimedia storytelling, is it allows students to be able to inhabit the worlds in time, like back in time, where they wouldn't otherwise be, like World War II or even the La Amistad slave ship, or go towards futuristic things like create molecules in space. So students had an opportunity to do things that they otherwise never would have been able to, and obviously I can't afford to send everyone to space. But Morehouse in the Metaverse was really important in helping students have a sense of belonging and inclusion and community that they didn't have before, because we were in a synchronous learning environment on the Engage platform. So it's relatively important for going forward for our students to have this type of experience. And so I'm happy to say that I started it, and I started my own company called Metaverse
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How did what your learnings the last couple of months actually propel you to start your own company, Metaverse United?
So Metaverse United, you can find us at unitethemetaverse.com. But the reason why I did it, I kept seeing all these multiverses. It was just everyone claimed they were in the metaverse, but you were on your own separate platform. And it's like, how can I help people find out really where they belong in this embodiment of the internet called the metaverse? And so many people ask me so many questions about the metaverse all the time. And it's like, how about I have a central location where people can go and get educational materials and hear talks that I've given or get information. And then I'm going to create this very nice questionnaire that I'm working on that'll help you really like figure out what your niche is in this metaverse space. Everyone won't be in an immersive technology device. Everyone will not be using augmented reality glasses. Some people will just be creators of the spaces that they want to inhabit. And so it's like, where are you in the economy? Are you designing and building NFTs? Are you working with digital assets? Are you into DAOs? Like, what is your thing? And then how is intellectual property of digital technologies changing with the metaverse space? So it's all about uniting us as one under one umbrella and all coming together to bring all our gifts and talents into a space that everyone can use.
Love it, love it. Go check it out if you can. So I'm going to move to Sean and Justin. You both are creating experiences for developers and gamers. We're actually changing and flipping the stereotype of what it means to be a gamer and actually have a career in esports and e-gaming. I think they're going to be, 3 billion gamers by 2023, and you guys are taking part in establishing a pathway and a pipeline for that. So Justin, I'm curious what Epic Games is doing around Unreal Engine. Why is that important, and what do you think Epic's role is in creating those pathways?
That's a good question. So when I think about what Epic Games is doing right now with the Unreal Engine, for those of you that aren't familiar with Unreal Engine, it's been a game engine for like almost 20 years now. And typically, when I started in games, I was working on PlayStation 1, and someone saying like, oh, the graphics that for PlayStation 1 could be just as good as visual effects in a movie wouldn't have happened. But now we look at like what PlayStation 5, all the content is coming out with interactive, it matches what is being used in visual effects for films. In fact, the technology that Epic does, Unreal Engine for fact, Mandalorian. If anyone's seen that and heard the term virtual production, you know, it's right up there. So when I think about what Epic is doing with the Unreal Engine, first off, it's free. You can download it. It's free. You can mess around with it, get immersed into it. We have amazing education on Unreal Online Learning, all free, all top tier. We have marketplaces where you can share your content, download content. We give away content for free that people can just mess around with each month and permanently. We have platforms where you can share the content you're creating on top of that. So when I think of what the metaverse is doing, it's just the next stage of storytelling and interaction, because you think about, you know, originally it was storytelling, written word, reading a book, and then we went to film, and then from that we took the interactivity and put it in the player's hands by creating games, which still allows storytelling, but also the ability for you now, the player, to control the path and the progression and even the camera of the player, right? So the metaverse is one step on top of that, where we're creating this space, and it's going to be this whole digital world. Unreal is a big part of that. But then we're going to enable people like yourselves, like students, like educators, to really inhabit that world and do whatever their mind has creatively. Is that good?
That is. And let's talk about your journey. I mean, 20 years in the space. How does your journey into gaming and now creating immersive learning environments for others tell us about the future of work and where we're going?
Oh, it's nuts. I originally wanted to do film, but then at the time, the game just, I was like, all right, I got an offer, and I decided to take it. And I remember, you know, YouTube, Google, all these different assets, like there was no such thing as, even back then, there was no such thing as game development schools. It was more or less like media arts animation. And I remember learning Maya and all those other books from like giant, big old books. And now you can go on, download something in like 10 minutes. That's a huge file. You can get all this free education. You can push it out. And again, the technology, like all these movies coming out that everyone's like, the special effects are amazing. Well, I think they are. I mean, nowadays, some people are like, it's just expected. But it's using game technology, real-time technology. And I don't know if you understand that real-time technology means that it's not rendered. It's like I can pop open it into the engine and move it, and you'll see it move on screen. If you haven't seen anything with the behind the scenes of Mandalorian, for example, or even the new Matrix, or the demo that were released with Unreal in the summer for the Matrix, check it out. It's insane. And if that doesn't spark any creativity or like ways that you can use that in a like a virtual classroom or even in real life, like I don't know how to help you, but yeah, I mean, it's insane. In the last, like, I'll try to tell students, because I'll teach still sometimes, the progression. I'm like, imagine what it's going to be in the next 20 years.
Right.
You can't, because when I was in school, I wouldn't have been able to like really contemplate like, oh, this is what it's going to look like now. No, not at all.
We're just scratching the surface now.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Awesome. Well, Sean, let's learn more about Metro Sports. You are an entrepreneur in residence at JFF, sponsored by Cognizant Foundation. So happy to have you. But tell us why it was important for you to create a physical space in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and what you're thinking about in terms of expansion.
Yeah, I think for us, a couple of things. I see video games and esports, video game competition as kind of this great common denominator, if you would. I don't know, I think the number is like 98% of kids play video games and 67% of adults. There might even be some playing in this room now. And so if you start with that as a common denominator, for us it was saying, if we can look at video games as the carrot, then what do we want the stick to be? And for us, the stick is all about just an advancement of education, if for nothing else than to reinvest the billions of dollars that goes into making video games and playing video games. Here you have this $1.5 billion industry that we, particularly as African American consumers, over-index in. And so I wanted to be in the Washington, D.C.s and the Philadelphias and the Chicagos to truly kind of embrace multiculturalism, but also look for ways to reinvest and turn some of that money and some of that energy around in our learning. Typically, people of color fall behind in STEM, fall behind in technology. And so when you look at the metaverse, if we don't start and bring it into the fold as it relates to how you learn and how you play and how you relate, then it's another thing that we're going to be behind on. The doctor mentioned NFTs and crypto and just DeFi in general. It's something that our community needs to be aware of. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the space, when you look at the Epics of the world or the Riot Games or the Warner Media, companies that are saying, hey, listen, if you're talented, we'll hire you even if you can't afford a degree.
Yeah.
That's the type of ecosystem that we want to build, where people can become content creators and make their own money or create their own careers and not necessarily be dependent on the 4-year degree and all the student loans that come along with that. No knock to college, because I think everybody has a path, but I think realistically, particularly in our urban communities, that path isn't affordable, right, and it's not accessible. And so, I think building a multicultural technology talent pipeline starts with, hey, all of these kids love video games. What do you want to do with them? That's what we're trying to figure out.
So I love that. You're meeting the kids where they are. Talk about some of the students that are coming to your location, those that are doing it online. You have an accredited program. Talk to us why that was important for you to start.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people who in and around education certainly understand, but the line of demarcation between suburban schools with money and inner city schools without can be as far as school books from 2021 and 2012. Right? Where, teachers are just trying to, in a lot of the inner city programs, just keep the kids in their seat and don't, not to be truant, as opposed to going and learning coding or programming or, a lot of the accelerated clubs that some of the suburban schools have. And so what we've done is we've taken our facility and said, yep, we have gaming. You can come in and play video games. You can play on consoles. You can play esports. You can do all the things that you love to do at home competitively with your friends. But at the same time, if you want to learn how to make the games that you're playing, or find your career path within this industry that you love, we want to be able to offer that and make it accessible and make it affordable. And so what we found is that charter schools, many schools that have popped up in and around the cities that don't have resources, don't have technology teaching resources, don't have equipment, or the educators that are needed to even teach an advanced curriculum, are coming to our facility and saying, hey, listen, can you be our ancillary computer science department? Can you be our de facto coding club? And so we want to just be this resource, that makes itself available, across the industry, but there's always kind of a, what's in it for me? If I go through that program, what can the end result look like?
And how are you working with employers as well? How are they engaging your community?
Yeah, that's great too. And we work with them in a number of ways. When you look at gaming and esports, part of what's so exciting about it to brands is it's all the visibility, right? Millions of impressions. If you put something, into mass production over the internet, there's this tremendous value, brand value that's created. And we certainly engage, brands like Microsoft and Logitech and Comcast, companies that are, actively engaged in gaming and reaching, these young people and millennials in the gameplay. But the other thing that we're doing is we're saying, hey, listen, give us an insight into what you require at an entry level, so that young people that come through our accredited program, we can then refer them back to you and create job opportunities as part of the relationship, right? And what we found is that I don't know if there's a greater commodity than multicultural technology talent, because it's just not out there in the masses, right? So I don't know, I think the number's 5% of all the engineering majors in the United States are of color.
Yeah.
And of those 5%, more than 40% will drop the major because they're the only person of color.
Right.
So where's the technology talent pipeline coming from? And what I'm saying is, let's start with gaming and build a pipeline there.
Yeah, build the pipeline, build the community. You talked about belonging as well. So just thank you both for what you're doing. Sharon, we're going to go to you. We talked about the metaverse. We've talked a little bit about gaming. How does this tie into the work you're doing with digital wallets and learning and education records?
Okay, so on this panel, I'm the non-native cool person. I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit like Jane Goodall in this universe of like games and online stuff, and I like have to figure out like what is going on and what are these things. And I think that over the last few days at South by and even on the panels before, we've talked a lot about how there's like different ways to learn, right? So like in an esports context, if I'm the captain of my league, I'm going to pretend I know what that means, right? Or if I've like finished a course. I'm enrolled in an Unreal Learning course, and it's so hard. And one day I will finish it, and maybe I'll be a filmmaker, maybe not The Mandalorian, but it's so good and it's so fun, but it's so hard. And I just feel like there are all of these ways that people learn and engage now, but there is no way for us to acknowledge that a student who has played a lot of games, who is the captain of a league, has skills that are valuable in the workforce. And what we need to do is figure out how to do something that's not like, here's a transcript and you had a 3.5 GPA. Like, what does that actually mean other than you sat in a classroom for 120 hours and took a few tests? Like, can you do really well in the workforce? Can you lead a team? Can you manage a project? And I think there are lots of ways that people have skills that we just choose not to see. And I think part of this is because we want to simplify it. We want to make it easier for employers to hire staff very quickly. I think we're all trying to do that at some point, and it's hard. So let's just use a bachelor's degree as a proxy. But it just makes us ignore all of the talent that's out there, and people who don't have, I think, Christina, you talk a lot about social network, or the ability to write a proper resume on USA Jobs or Monster.com or LinkedIn. What does that mean for people who don't know or who can't do that? So I'm working on a project in partnership with the National Governors Association and many, many other organizations across the country to think about, can we allow individuals to have agency and control over their digital identities, including the skills that they have, their abilities, and document that in a way and share it so that they can be seen by employers and they can advance and they can have good jobs and they can participate in the metaverse or wherever they want to participate. So learning and employment records are, I think, a digital kind of record tied to your digital identity that you take with you and you choose how to share as you pursue opportunities. We're going to release a market scan that talks about one slice of that ecosystem next week, just the digital wallets. Like, how does a person interact with their digital identities in this way? And then I think over the next year or so, we'll be working in collaboration with policymakers to think about what does that mean for policies and practices around HR, around how we engage talent, how we view the quality of educational programs, whether formal or informal, short or long term. And then finally, what does that mean for the technology? Like, can you create tools that are open and interoperable so that people can actually move from having their data on one platform to another as they move from school to school to school? So
it's exciting work. We can't wait to release the scan on that. But let's dive a little bit more into that. And we appreciate Walmart for sponsoring you as an entrepreneur in residence as well. Talk to us a little bit more about why the transcript and the resume is insufficient right now and what you're hoping not only for the digital wallet providers to show, but what you want students to understand about how they can actually now describe their skills, their experience, because as you're right, so many options in how people learn and a lot of options on how they can describe the work that they've done or the experiences that they've had.
Yeah, so my bachelor's degree is in molecular biology. Yeah, I know, we're the scientists in the house, but how does that actually relate to the job I have now? I have not been in a lab for a really long time, so maybe I have no skills that are relevant to my job. But if I
You have
did
lots
wanna-
of skills, Sharon, lots of skills.
But see, if I wanted to prove that to you, like if I'm, I would have to call my school or email them and pay them some money, and then they would like email you or send you in the mail an envelope that's sealed with a stamp on it. I don't have control over that. And unless I have access to my school, which by the way, if I have an unpaid library fine, they may not send it to you. And that process takes time. And there are lots of people who don't have the luxury of time. I think that I am in the privileged class of people in America who, if I needed some money desperately, I could beg my parents. It would be embarrassing, but they would give me money and I could sleep in their basement. But some people have families to support, and most students in post-secondary education are working part-time or full-time and going to school so that they can support their families. And without the direct access and control over their records, they can't get jobs. And part of this is on how the system of records works at institutions, but the other part is how employers view credentialing. So I think we want to change both of those at the same time. And what we want to say is, actually, let's not have institutions control the information about a person. And let's have not employers and employer systems do this. Let's actually have individuals hold and control their own data and be able to share it. And let's have them be digitally verifiable so that when I say to you, I have a bachelor's degree and I know how to run a gel, that you know that, because it's it helps with cooking skills. Actually, is like
It does. I'm a
right?
fabulous cook because I'm a
Yes.
chemist.
Very precise measurements. Yes. So how can I demonstrate that I have the skill, and how can you verify it? And maybe I don't like my current employer. I do. Christina is wonderful. But
Sharon,
if I'm
do we need to
secretly
talk after
job
this panel?
searching, but some people are in very bad situations and they have to secretly job search. So can I secretly do this without my employer knowing? Or what if my school shuts down and all of my records are in a warehouse in a closet?
That happened to me.
And then what happens? But is that where you did?
It's
you
not
go to-
even like the
Yeah.
school
Oh, you
shut down
did.
and the school got demolished. So what you're talking about, I've had to deal with.
Yes. And it's, and it's like also like migrant students whose families move seasonally, not in the school year. So let's give the control back to the students themselves so that they are not waiting all of the time for our systems.
Yeah, I love that you all highlighted and mentioned access, student agency, and ownership, right? Those are the three takeaways just from what you all are doing, just creating spaces, but also making sure that we're expecting that to happen as we move forward. So I really appreciate that. So we've got about 6 minutes left. I have a few questions for you. This is going to be lightning round, okay?
Let me get
You guys
up.
ready? What is your favorite platform to teach students in an immersive environment? We're going to start, Justin, with you and come down.
Unreal.
Unreal Engine, yes.
I'm not a teacher, but I've had fun playing on Unreal, so I'll +1 you.
I'm going to say Unreal because I want to do a deal with Justin. So.
My boss is going to be so happy.
I love it.
So I'm going to say the Engage platform, and we had our digital twin built by VictoryX, our educational partners, on the Engage platform. So I like Engage.
Awesome. 3D or 2D? Sharon, we're going to start with you.
2D to start. Or it doesn't matter as long as it's engaging and people actively participate.
3D?
Go 3D.
3D, yeah.
3D.
Real-time 3D.
3D.
Gotta have it.
The more immersive, the better, right?
Absolutely.
All right. What industry do you think we will see heavily adopt immersive and 3D technologies? Sean, we'll start with you.
Ask the question again, please.
What industry do you think we will see heavily adopt immersive and 3D technologies?
Just finance sector, banking.
Okay. Dr. Morris?
I say advanced manufacturing.
Sharon?
Healthcare.
Healthcare.
I mean, the go-to is, I guess, video games, but I'm also going to say virtual production, visual effects, animation, just the whole creative world. And then even I'm curious to see how music's going to start using it, which they already started doing. So,
Yeah, it's a lot of industries. I say all
So
sectors.
all sectors,
all
right,
sectors.
right.
What skills are most required in the work that you're doing now? We'll start with you and go down.
Collaboration, being able to collaborate and communicate with other creatives and other people who work in the software development space and are technical but also creative. So collaboration is key. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Love it.
Yeah, for us, it's more basic. I'd say being open-minded, right? You know, just the exploration of a willingness to be able to learn in a different way, maybe a way that we're not necessarily used to teaching or students aren't used to learning, but understanding that the movement's happening and you got to get on the bus, you know, one way or another.
Mine's related. I think like curiosity and willing to try new things.
yeah, I mean, when people think about, the metaverse or technology or Unreal or any of that stuff, they always focus on the tech. Honestly, it's collaboration is a huge one, communication, and then you just have to be really good at problem solving, be passionate, because any studio you go to in any industry, they're going to have to ramp you up on their own technology and their own team, and everything's always going to change. And I've seen people who are amazing at tech but have terrible communication skills, and they get frustrated when they can't solve a problem, so they're kind of useless at that point, to be blunt. But if you're someone who has no technology skills, that's why you're going to do great.
I will pass the course at some point.
You will.
Year.
Can you validate that credential?
It's just, I feel like if someone can enjoy learning and be able to have a conversation and problem solve, but also be passionate enough not to get stuck with a problem and push through, then they can learn any task.
Absolutely, I agree.
I love that those are all power skills, right? They're not hard skills, so we can
You
teach
can
people
do
to
it by
tech.
yourself. You don't have
Right.
to go to school to learn that stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what do you predict will be the fastest growing job in the metaverse?
Ooh, well, I'm gonna say, I'm traditionally, before I started getting like on the higher production side, but I was traditionally a environment artist and world builder, and we're building giant worlds. So I'm gonna say world builders or environment artists, just people building these visual spaces for people to inhabit and create content in.
Excellent.
I'm going to be less ambitious and say virtual fashion designer. And if anyone wants to help me improve my t-shirt design skills in the metaverse, please contact me afterwards.
I think content creator, right? Individually, independently, but content creation and production will be just more immersive and explosive.
Excellent.
So maybe it's just me, but I say chief metaverse officers. And the reason why I say that is we're on the cutting edge of an emerging technology, and people who already are starting right now already have the head start. So if you know a little bit about everything in the metaverse, you're going to help better position other companies to be able to actually get a foothold in a space where they're going to need to build different worlds. So chief metaverse officer, you're starting to see more and more jobs where people want to see people in that position to help them figure out where they belong in this metaverse.
I love that. I love that. All right, this is the final question. We've got just a minute and a half. If you can finish this statement, what if? And we'll start here and go around. What if?
What if the pandemic never happened? Would we be here now? Would we really have taken the leap that we've taken in technology over the last 24 months that hadn't happened in 24 years?
That's good. Thanks for making me follow that up. Yeah. What if? I think mine's more altruistic, I guess. What if the metaverse actually levels the playing field for learning between the haves and the have-nots?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to be shallow. What if my hair really was purple in real life? My avatar has purple hair right now, and I think that what if people felt more free to express themselves and to be who they are and had better control over how they presented themselves to the universe?
And I guess you all said amazing things, so thanks. But I guess what if people took video games, metaverse, visual effects, all that stuff more serious. Because I feel like when we say those things, there's going to be people that always think that, oh, someone who does that has no ambition, no drive, it's just a game. And I think everything is just balance. I think those tools, like we talked about today, can lead to education. It can be applied to any industry, like you talking about molecules, people seeing that stuff. A lot of people can't visually imagine that. And growing up with the magic school bus, I mean, if you can
Absolutely.
make like the inside of someone's heart and then have kids like walk around it, and like that's all based on the technology and the tools and all the disciplines that you learn playing games and making them. So
I love it.
You guys crushed it. I love it. Thank you so much for your time. We are out of time today. Thank you all so much for being here and listening. And I will turn it over to David and Maria, and we'll close out. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.